You are listening to We Are the Compassionate Revolution. I'm your podcast host, therapist, author, boundaries guide, Molly Moon. If you are a compassionate person and you want to know your worth, set better boundaries, live from your truth, and operate in your fullness, then I am so glad you've joined us. You ready? Let's get started. Welcome to the podcast today. I am with a very dear friend of mine, Jennifer Evridge, who has a background working in emergency services with 911 dispatch, has been a criminal defense investigator. Let me tell you, this woman is someone you want on your team. Today, she is a very successful business owner with her partner. But more than all of that, Jennifer is someone I treasure and am so lucky to call my friend. So, Jennifer, with that, I want to turn the mic over to you for a little bit. And how would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners before we really get into some deep stuff that you and I both have tissues for?
Yeah, I can't wait. Personally, dang it, thank you for having me on. I just adore you, like, for real. Like, this has been a really great journey to be with you the last few months. And it's an honor to be here. Lately, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience here, and it's a beautiful place to be. To learn, to learn so many things, that the lessons that we've learned through our lives, the troubles, the mistakes, the successes. And as I start looking at my life and reflecting, I'm learning that so many of those things and what they meant, and it's beautiful.
Did you ever think you'd say something like that, like 10 years ago?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Wasn't still in the suffering stage. Woe is me.
For those of you who don't know, we'll be talking about it a bit today. Jennifer's in the middle of writing, or actually in kind of the editing phase of her memoir, Redneck to Awakening. And it is so damn good. I cannot wait till this memoir is out there. And by the way, I'll have Jennifer back on the podcast once it is out there and provide links in the show notes then to how to get your hands on this book. I mean, just being around Jennifer, you're going to have access to all. You don't even know what will come out of her mouth at any given time.
I don't know.
We all don't know. But the stories upon stories upon stories, real life experiences that happened and the lessons learned along the way. One of the labels I would give you if I was describing you to somebody, Jennifer, would be that of a survivor. I'm not sure if that's a label you give yourself, but you experienced abuse at an early age, significant abuse, and continued to.
Yeah.
It didn't stop.
No.
Maybe just changed faces and locations but would you share a bit about that and how it impacted you early on in your life?
It has really come to light writing this memoir, because the whole point of the memoir was there were some things that I really wanted the kids to know that I had not had the courage to tell them yet. And I want them to, when they were in their healing journey, hopefully before their 50s, that they would be able to see some of the reasons why things happened. And that was the whole point of the book.
So a lot of the things in this book your young adult children didn't know about.
They don't know still.
What?
Yeah. They don't know all the details. There's so much.
Wow. So they just know of mom as a badass in this tender side. Oh my gosh, Jennifer. Whew.
Yeah. And so, but then as I started writing the book, I started seeing all the little puzzle pieces coming together. It was eye-opening, but the abuse, and I don't know how much detail we want to go into, but my survivor career started at 6 with a Catholic priest. And then from there, it went on to the 4-H leader and the shop teacher and the local police officer and the local contractor. And then the longest, the 20 years, was a boyfriend of my aunt that I ended up marrying and having 3 children with. And so it took a long time for me to kind of get out of that survival mentality and be able to stand up for myself.
Well, one of the things that comes up for me is the titles that you named. Every single person there is in a position of authority or bigger than, better than, quote, quote, the way we're taught to think about things, especially as children. These are people you're supposed to be able to trust in oftentimes systems you're supposed to be able to trust. Setting aside the general humanity that makes me want to wail when I hear something like this about a child, what does it do to a child's ability to trust?
And trust God, especially because the first one, that's what started my spirituality path really, was as a 6-year-old child, having that done by someone, a man of God who was in charge, who was a leader of a church, who was supposed to be a deliverer of God. And I thought, well, if he's doing that to me, I must be bad. Like something's wrong. Like God's mad at me. And so I was mad at God for a long time and didn't want anything to do with him. You're mad at me, I'm gonna be, it was just like, and so I pushed against that structure religion my whole life. I think I still am.
Mhm. Makes sense.
Which brings up a really cool thing that happened when I was 9.
Good. Please share.
It was Christmas time. Mom would bring us to these different churches, and the church she was bringing us to was a young girl. She must have been 20s, Sunday school teacher, and she was talking about the virgin birth of Jesus. And Jennifer, 9, being a rebel and wanting to buck the religious system, raised my little hand and said, "Well, how do we know that Mary didn't cheat on Joseph?" And,
Like, your little 9-year-old self knows the ways of the world
yeah,
by then. Because when I was little and heard that story, I'm like, "Okay." And it didn't even occur to me to question anything, much less that something like that could happen, but little Jennifer's like, "Oh, yeah, I know how stuff happens."
and, heaven forbid a 9-year-old in the Bible Belt in Louisiana questioning the miracle, the birth of Jesus. And so, oh my gosh, I got sent to the back of the room, and the gal didn't know what to do with me. All the kids picked on me. I felt like crap. And that night, I had this dream. And, there was this guy, like this regular dude, like he wasn't even a godlike guy. He was a regular dude, and he said, "Hey, Jennifer, I heard you had some questions." I was like, "Yes, I do." And he said, "Well, here's the deal." He's like, "We all come to this world to love and to learn, and that's your only job." It's like some people come 837 times. Some people come, it's their first time, and you're gonna run into all of them. So just remember that, kid. And I was like, "Okay." And, I had no idea what reincarnation was. Back in the Bible, that would have been blasphemy back then, but that made sense to me then. That made sense more than anything else. I'm like, "I'm going with that." And I didn't tell anybody about that dream until I was like 40s, 837 times. Why that number? Like, why not 847 times? I always joke with people with Molly, "Well, Molly's on her 836th time, and I'm on number 10, so let's."
No, not true. Now you
Oh,
know, but
yeah.
well, it is so wild though, right? How I remember the first time I was exposed to past life, that concept in a sense that some religions and people believe that there are multiple lives, which is completely wrong. That's how I was introduced to that idea, and so I just believed what I was told. And I do remember later thinking about that going, I don't know, there's something about that that could really make sense.
Yeah.
I think I hold all things like that fairly loosely because we don't know and we won't know till we know. However, I find actually a lot of meaning and help in considering that to be potentially true.
I think I start to believe it more and more as I get older.
I know. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So, give us a snapshot of where young Jennifer was at, maybe 14, 15, 16. What was life like as a young teenager? And where was your head at? What did you believe about yourself and the world? What was going on?
Well, at that age, I thought it was hot shit because I had, I had the cop on the hook for, if I got pulled over, I got pulled over for a DUI and got off somehow mysteriously. I had a guy that supplied the alcohol and the weed. I had the one guy that would listen to me, if one I could borrow a truck from. So I mean, I was like hot shit. I had everything I needed. And then I had a really severe car crash at 16, and everything kinda changed then.
It's like younger Jennifer was really put in a victim position until coming into her teenage body, at which point there's this ability to at least navigate the world of power with some personal power of your own.
Yeah,
Might not be right, good, great, healthy, but so nothing had been right, good, great, healthy prior to then, and you didn't have any choice. So at least now there was the ability to wield some power back.
control it a little bit.
Yeah, makes so much sense. Would you be open to sharing the story of that car crash? 'Cause that's pretty intense.
So, my mother had moved 30 miles away, and the primary perpetrator at the time did not want me to leave, and so he arranged for me to find places to stay, farm out, doing work or whatever. So I was living away from home, and it was really hard. I missed my sisters, I missed my mom, I was with strangers, and one night I prayed. I was like, "If I have a car crash, maybe people pay attention to me." And that week, I had a car crash. In the book, I go into the detail, but it was a miracle that I survived this crash, and it got me out of that situation. It got me out of being in that just nest of men that I was involved in, and it kind of broke me free until the next one at 19, but yeah, I mean, the car crash story is like an hour long to give it its credit because it's so I mean, there's a firefighter, there's fingerprints, there's this divine being that shows up on scene. I mean, I could go on, and when you look back on it, you're like, "I can't believe at 16 I didn't, like, say, 'Jennifer, wake up! This you're being divinely led.'" But I didn't.
It's so interesting, though, looking back with the wisdom that we know now, looking back and making meaning out of things that there was like a limited ability to make meaning of at the time.
Yeah.
And there's such clarity of meaning now looking back with all the things that you know now. How did it feel when you were writing that chapter?
I wrote that chapter in Joshua Tree, and it was hard. It was emotional because it was like, "Dang it, I missed that," you know? But it was also, like, affirming. It was affirming about my path, and it made me feel really strong and know that I'm on the right path where I am now, and there's no doubt.
Jennifer and I just got to be roomies for a couple months. There's not a lot of people in the world that you can just step into a natural, easy, joyous roommate situation, and it was so fun how all of that just happened in the most wonderful of ways. But it was really special, I think, to be there while this book was pouring out of you.
Yeah, so magical.
Such a special time. There's a lot of people listening who have experienced some pretty serious, significant trauma in their childhood as well. Everyone responds to these things differently. Those layers of trauma, especially when it's sexual abuse, especially when it's ongoing, chronic, it's really common for that to kind of break someone's brain, so to speak, or to cause untold outcomes that prevent someone from being able to live and function in everyday adult life. But there are also a whole lot of people, and I say this with the background of being a therapist for many amazing adults who are able to show up in everyday life and yet have so many things that happen to them kind of in the back closet. What is it like to show up, function in everyday life, but have these things in the background that were so significant?
You know, it wasn't until I broke free of that, that I realized that that in the back pocket was what was in charge, and it wasn't me. It was always the blame game, the shame game that was in charge, and it's so funny looking back at what triggered that opening, you know, and do you know what it is, or was it just a silent, I mean, I have some ideas, I have some beliefs, but was it divine intervention? Was it the timing? I just don't know, but I mean, looking back at even the way I treated my kids, the way I parented, the way I looked at myself, the way I interacted with people, it was not me. It wasn't that my real self. It was my shame and fear and guilt running the show, always.
it's like, how do we even heal from trauma like that, first of all? Who do you go to talk to? How do you even begin that journey? And I think a lot of times there's that fear of, if I even start, I'll just start crying and I'll never stop, or I'll just start screaming and never stop. I think for so many compassionate people, it's like once we figure out how to button it up and shove it into the back somewhere, there's a real fear, a literal fear of, if I touch this stuff, it will break me then.
Yes, that's what I had. Yes.
And so we think that by shoving it in the back, we're healed-ish, or not necessarily healed, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Yep.
Yeah. And I love how you just said that, though, with the benefit of hindsight looking back, it wasn't fine. And it was actually a secret driver
Mhm.
that we have no control over because we won't look at it.
Even all the counseling. And I didn't do a ton of counseling because I was a master at hiding that. And so they knew that nothing happened, but even in counseling, that was driving. And so how can you get through to anything if you're letting that person drive?
Wow. Explain what you mean by that.
I'd go to these I didn't start really doing any counseling sessions until after mom died. And, they tried talking to me, and I was always putting on this show of, everything's fine, I'm okay. This is just I just need to go because they say I need to go to counseling because my mom died. But you don't let anybody pierce that void of who's in there. You don't ever let that person out.
Well, and the actual traumas themselves, because they happened with people who are supposed to be trustworthy, who are supposed to be in authority, who are supposed to be safe in systems that are supposed to be safe, would teach a person, don't trust anybody, really. What are they going to do with that information? How are they going to hurt and abuse me once they know this information? Such a catch-22.
But what's so funny is that once I looked at it, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was bad, okay, I'm not saying that, but once I looked at it, it was like, "Okay, I can handle this. This is good." It wasn't all lollipops and I mean, it was hard,
Yeah.
but it was totally doable.
The pain of finally having the guts to do it is not going to be any higher than the pain of not doing it and having
Mm.
it continue to run one's life. But you don't know that. I mean, geez, in my healing journey, different experiences than yours, but I truly thought that if I opened up and really got honest, then my worst fear would be realized, because my worst fear was really like, I am not lovable. I am not okay. It's not like what I am is not okay. And if I go there, I'm going to actually see it. And right now, it's just a fear that it's not good to be me. But if I actually open up and get vulnerable, I'm going to see it for real. It will be confirmed. Oh, shit. And then I cannot live with myself if I see that. And I think, like, what is always said about shadow work, in your shadow, the thing you're so afraid of is actually beautiful, precious gifts and talents and amazing qualities that you have that, because of abuse, trauma, programming, you had to shove away. So you think of that, your perception is, this is really dark stuff. This is not going to be okay. And what it really is some of your most tenderest, beautifulest, wonderfulest truths. Sometimes I think that same thing about trauma work, that it's in the doing of really good trauma work that we see, oh my gosh, that sweet little one that I was, so precious, so full of worth, never should have been treated that way. And we get to actually reclaim our worth, our tenderness.
Mm. And start listening and start being able to be yourself and start not worrying anymore. Just be yourself. Just be love.
So counterintuitive, but so true. And you're like literally, probably if I asked all of our friends to describe you, if I texted everyone right now and said, give me 3 words that describe Jennifer, I think authenticity. And if they didn't use the word authenticity, they'd use a word like real
Yeah.
or something like that. Vulnerable, which are things that in order to survive, you'd trained yourself to be very careful not to be. And now you're literally so authentic.
Yeah. It's freeing.
It's pretty cool.
So cool.
Hey, my friends. I firmly believe that the common struggles we compassionate people face are often doorways, pointing us to the hidden beliefs that so many times keep us stuck. So if overgiving or people-pleasing or guilt around boundaries has been holding you back, I created something to help. It's called the Boundaries Breakthrough Mini Course, and right now, it's totally free. So if you feel the tug to grow in your boundaries journey, this is for you. You can start today at boundary.com/breakthrough. And if you're interested in coming to work with me more closely, the mini course is a wonderful way to dip your toe in the water, get some real help, and if you want to continue with me after that, then cool. I would love that. Boundary.com/breakthrough. It's really good stuff. Have fun. You mentioned your mom dying. Just
Mm.
share a little bit about that, because one of the gifts I think that you bring just by being authentically yourself is that you and your mom had a complex relationship. And some of the people who abused you were in your life because of your mom.
Mhm.
And yet you also loved her and love her now. She's a very, very precious, precious human being in your life. And that's something that you don't see a lot of in our world because we tend to function in such an either or way. This person is good or this person is bad. This person is right or this person is wrong. You either have a relationship or you cut them off. And yet you had a relationship and also are able to acknowledge, it was messy and I love her.
Yeah. That's so cool that you brought that up because that's been something I've really been thinking about lately. I've come to the realization that she had to have known about the first incidents, and the timing of her leaving was just too coincidental. But, never had the courage to ask her. My mother was this, like, life of the party, beautiful woman physically, but beautiful inside, and I wanted to be with her all the time, and, she didn't have time. I mean, she was busy, she had 2, 3 kids, and she missed so much.
You guys were pretty poor when you describe. I mean, there was
Yeah.
like, hope we can pay the bills next month was kind of a regular way of life.
Yeah, writing hot checks and, squeaking by and breaking down the side of the road and flagging down an 18-wheeler and, I mean, it was tough, but she always made these adventures fun for my sisters and I, and I just loved her for that, like, she never was like, said, "Oh, crap, how are we gonna pay the bills?" She just made it an adventure, and I can feel her soul, like, I know who was in there, and so I had to kinda look through and do, in some of your retreats, the amazing retreats that you do, I've gone back to think about what her life was like and what she was going through and, how she could have missed these and how she would have dealt with it and why she always stuffed her emotions and, when she gave me about 45 seconds of an apology before she died in a car crash. I've held on to that. It's something that she acknowledged it, she showed me it was all she could give me, but she gave it to me. And she said, "Jennifer, I have a lot of regret for not giving you as much love as I should have." But she said it was like triage, you're a victim of triage. And I
Oh,
took it, I mean, it wasn't the, "I'm sorry, I didn't see everything," but I didn't have the courage to say, "Did you know about this? Did you know about this?" But it was enough, you know?
'cause she didn't know, to your knowledge, she didn't know about the sexual abuse?
I think she must have known about the Catholic priest because that happened, and then she just picked up and moved in the middle of the night. I mean, and but I don't know. You just don't know because I didn't have the courage to ask her when she was alive, but I loved her.
It's so hard when people have been trained. I mean, it's so easy to look now. And I don't say this to let anyone off the hook or to justify anything, but it's the both and, the holy both and. Many times our ancestors had rules given to them, programming given to them that you can't come up against systems of power, that you can't. I mean, for so long,
Yeah.
like, if you were a child who experienced abuse, there was nothing for you. And in fact, actually, you were considered ruined. And the powers that be that did the abuse, perpetrated the abuse, there was no justice. They could do whatever they wanted legally for centuries. And so it's almost like then the adults truly have a sense of powerlessness, that there's really nothing you can do. And by trying to get justice, you'll actually destroy this kid's life further because they'll be the bad kid, and the person in the position of power who abused will be seen as a victim. And because many times that actually is what happened. We could look back and wish and know that things ideally would have happened much differently. And also understanding the context. It doesn't fix anything, honestly, but it sometimes helps a little.
Yeah. It's so interesting to look back at her life too, because exactly like what you were saying, so many times she had to stay quiet. I saw how she dealt with racism in Louisiana, and I know it tore her up, but she couldn't stand up. There's no way she could have, so she made a difference quietly behind scenes, working for public assistance to help underprivileged or doing this or doing that. And, it's just, I saw the good in her, and I know. And talking about complex relationships, yeah. I don't think it's like the fawning either that Ingrid talks about either. It's not like I'm going to her to, because she's my abuser and I wanna no, it's not that. I felt the love from her. And so it's just a beautiful thing.
Totally. Fawning is a real thing. And also, this is different. And it takes a lot of our own personal growth and healing, because there is a place for being really upset at somebody that we love. There can be a season of great anger. It's almost like anger is part of the healing process. There has to be a like, wait, what the F?
Yeah.
Why didn't you? How come this? There has to be that place. And then, interestingly, sometimes there's another side of that where we finally take our own humanity into account, and that makes us angry. There's grief, there's rage, all those things are right. And then from that place, we are then free to also begin to take their humanity into account, understand their context. And it's not always true. Some people are not doing the very best that they can.
Right.
But when we do know that it's somebody in our past who was actually doing the best that they could with the limited tools and abilities that they had, if they had the ability to go back now knowing what they know, they would have done it differently, but they didn't at the time. There's something really precious about coming to that place and being able to no longer love them because they're on a pedestal, but love them in the full scope of their complex, warped, and twisted humanity.
Absolutely. One of my favorite lines in the book about that was that I, left Louisiana with a suitcase full of resentment, but a heart full of love of my mother. And I think that kinda summarizes how I felt about her when I left.
The primary audience of this podcast is our fellow compassionate people. And a lot of us have this experience, and in a world where you're told, like, it's either one way or another, they're a bad person, cut them off. Or in a world where you're told, minimize. The other thing is the people pleasing side of it, where minimize anything bad, don't look at it, just love them, ignore any bad behavior. That's bullshit too.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice to, when it's right for us, acknowledge the bullshit and also love the human. And in a way, if we can't do that, we can't even love ourselves, because, I mean, we've been part of a lot of bullshit. There's many things I would do differently if only I knew
So
better.
many things.
And so if I can find that healthy grace for somebody else, then I have that healthy grace for myself. And I've seen you do that. I've witnessed your journey of coming into a love of yourself.
Mm.
That's something we compassionate people, I mean, we're really good at loving other people, seeing the best in other people. Oh, it's so hard to do for ourselves.
So hard.
That's the journey. The real healing journey is so much about coming into a acceptance and love for ourselves.
But once you do, it's like they say with the oxygen mask on the airplane. Once you get your mask on, then you can help other people. You really couldn't help anybody without your mask on.
So true.
So fun.
Part of your own healing and awakening journey has included boundaries. Would you share a bit about that?
It was a really hard time in my life. I was drinking a lot of wine combined with his Xanax, trying to blend a family with his new stepdad after leaving 3 traumatized kids. and, was really struggling, and when I took Molly's boundaries class for the first time, it was eye-opening. It gave me space. It showed me how to say no without feeling like an asshole, and that I could say no, and, the class that you have is just amazing, and then I continued with the retreats, but also just the boundaries work in general, just that little crack. I can be my own person, because as a survivor, you say, of trauma, you just kinda absorb in everybody else, and then once you can realize that you're your own person, it's almost like a light bulb goes on. You're like, "Oh, okay," and it just starts from there, layers after layers after layers, this boundary, that boundary, and there's so many. There's so many relationships, there's so many things and money, and I mean, it's been a big deal. It's been a really I think it really kinda was a part of it was a stepping stone of me of where I'm at now. There's no way I'd be here without that.
That's exactly how it worked in my own life too. It almost opens the doors to massive awakening in almost every other area because I think, "Oh, now I know my edges, my true boundaries. So now I'm here in myself. And if I'm at home in myself here, what does that mean?" You know? Along those lines, after your boundaries journey began, there was the introduction into meditation.
Mhm.
Do you share a bit about that?
I love it. Yeah, I love the story. So, I was still struggling with boundaries and I was still drinking. I tried to be sober. I was sober for like 3 months, but I went to this conference and for whatever reason, I went straight to the bar. Blew months of sobriety, but for whatever reason, got loaded and called a friend and said, "Something has to change. A yoga retreat, rehab, I don't care. Where are we going?" And this friend that I happened to call said, "Well, there's a Joe Dispenza retreat in 3 weeks." I was like, "Fine." And I had just gotten a tax return. And so I bought her ticket and my ticket and said, "Let's go." And then I regretted it the next morning. I'm like, "What in the actual fuck did I do?" Like, I just spent 5 grand on a meditation retreat. I don't know how to meditate. But I was like, "I'm not gonna be a crybaby," so I just toughed it out. But during that meditation retreat, the first 2 days, I thought, "I joined a cult. Here we go. And Jennifer joined a cult now. Now she's an alcoholic. She's doesn't have any boundaries. She's joined the cult. Let's make it, But by the 3rd day,
Wait. What made you feel like it was a cult?
because people were like all happy and not on drugs or alcohol and dancing and like singing kumbaya to each other and idolizing this guy on stage. And I'm like, what the hell? What are we doing here? No sex, no alcohol, no drugs, and they're happy. What? You know,
Wrong. Not possible.
Everybody was so happy. I'm like, are they putting mushrooms in the food? What is happening? But by day 3, I was able to get into that meditation space, and I was like, it really took me by surprise. I mean, really hard, and so the meditation retreat itself really opened me to that, accessing what I call the loving presence, God, whatever you wanna call it, but it was just a beautiful time. I mean, and considering I had no history with, remember I hated God, and so that was like, "Oh, shit, there is something here," and it was beautiful.
It wasn't necessarily easy, but you began to make meditation part of a fairly regular practice.
Yeah, I mean, I tell people I meditate an hour or 2 a day because, I mean, I do it in spurts sometimes, but I also do it in long spurts, but I've gotten to a place where I can access that space fairly quickly, and, I spend a lot of time talking or listening, excuse me, not talking, listening.
It's such a good way to put it actually because that is the norm, right? We typically do spend a lot of time talking. And if not verbally out of our mouths, it's like the chatter in the head is
Exactly.
also this, hey, the to-do list. Hey, remember this one memory right here? And moving into the meditative space, once you learn how to shift the brain waves, it's listening and there's something there to listen to.
Always, always something to say.
Yeah, so cool. You and I are actually meeting up in a few days. By the time this podcast airs, in fact, we'll be together because we're going to go to a meditation retreat together with our Sons.
Teenage boys,
So cool.
young adults. Can you believe that? That we got the teenage boys to go?
It's amazing.
I was so excited to see what Ollie thinks of it. Like, I can't wait.
Yeah, my son's pretty excited too. It's really fun to be able to well, first of all, I think it's really cool to have young adult kids. Like, having adult children, it's not that it's not stressful, sometimes it is because they have to go through their own life journeys, and in many ways, there's really not a lot you can do about it. You gotta cheerlead and support and love and worry
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
and then work on that worry as part of one's own practice, and just really appreciate and honor their life journey. But it's really fun when it's right. I don't think all of my children would want to go on to a meditation retreat. It's not necessarily the right thing for them or the right time for them, but it's really fun when it is for one of your kids and they're interested in it and it's something you should share together. I'm excited.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, next time I have you on the podcast, we'll maybe have a link, first of all, to your memoir, but then second, we can talk about how that went.
Yeah. I can't wait.
It'll be
I
fun.
can't wait.
For a lot of people in the compassionate community, it's not uncommon for folks in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond to be dealing with a chronic illness or some kind of autoimmune disorder or something. Some of these things are just straight up genetic. Some of these things, however, kind of get tipped into existence through living a life under chronic stress, chronic strain, the adrenaline and cortisol and misery of having to keep the people pleased, having to somehow do everything for everyone, carrying all the responsibility for everybody while completely neglecting our own selves. And these things are not good for our physical health.
Right.
In fact, I don't remember what year it was, but you were told you were not going to live for very long. And
Yeah.
you've been living with a chronic illness. Would you share just a little bit about that?
So in 2012, I was diagnosed with interstitial lung disease and pulmonary fibrosis. And the doctor in Seattle said he'd be surprised if I made it 5 years. And I had little kids at the time, and I was not going to leave the kids with their dad. And so I stuffed that for many, 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 many years. And then, but I gone round and round about this disease. I'm going to do a lung transplant evaluation here coming up next month. And I believe I'll be selected as long as nothing funky pumps up. But, the chronic stress of dealing with the traumas and being a compassionate person and stuffing things, I 100% believe affected my health. But the question is can I undo that? I mean, I can undo a lot of it now, but I think sometimes the damage is done. And so I think my path is to go and get some new lungs. And so I struggled with that, and I'm going to talk to about that probably in my next book. But that's the journey that I'm on. Is we're going to do a lung transplant. I'm hoping in February. So we'll see.
It's been such a privilege actually to witness your process in all this. And especially because you did experience a time period of what seemed like kind of a miraculous healing, a significant improvement after that first meditation retreat,
Yeah,
actually. It's interesting because it's not that I want to make chronic illness into, oh, it's actually a great thing. What a wonderful path of awakening it is. Because chronic illness sucks.
yeah,
It's terrible. It's miserable. It's not fun. And yet, for some, sometimes it can be a real doorway into pushing a person to look to ask big questions, to look at things much more deeply, to take life much more seriously, and to have the courage to pursue various healing paths.
yeah. Imagine being told you're going to die tomorrow, and then you have like 10 years to think about it. To me, it's like a gift. It's a gift that was handed to me, and I'm not going to. I wouldn't say that for everybody, but for me, I'm grateful for it. People tell me, "Oh, I'm so sorry you're sick." My answer is, I'm really grateful for it. It's really opened my eyes to what's possible in this life what's possible as a human, as a spiritual being having a human experience. It's opened my eyes to who I truly am, and it's beautiful, and no matter what happens, if I don't make it to the surgery, I know I'm gonna go down kicking and knowing who I am, and that's
Mm.
worth every freaking penny of it. So let's fucking go.
Oh, it's so true.
Oh.
We live, and we don't know which day will be our last, but we have this kind of a like, the human ability to go, "Eh, I'll think about that later,"
Yeah,
and push that to one side, and then we keep on living, oftentimes in lives we really don't like, in circumstances we really don't like, but we kind of have this idea in our head, like, "I'll get to that later, I'll get to that later, I'll
yeah,
get to that later," and there's something about chronic illness or a termination point, a life expectancy point when something is so severe that someone brings up, "Hey, this is probably your expected timeline,"
yeah,
or "This could be your expected timeline." It really does make it real hard to say, "I'll get to that later," because there's actually a date on the calendar when there will be no more later.
yeah. Yeah, what a gift, right? I wish we all could have that in some kind of safety somehow, but then can you really have it in safety? Because if you know it's safe, you're not gonna take it seriously.
Yeah, that's true. Damn it. Damn
Right.
it. Yeah, I hate
Ugh.
it for you, and it's also I've gotten to witness you use it in incredibly precious way that's very encouraging and inspiring, I think. It can be a gift, so why not use it as one?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who's listening today, who's waking up for whatever reason, whether it's because they're finally looking at trauma and beginning to heal, but it's the beginning stage and they're scared, or whether they have a chronic illness and they're finally starting to go, "Oh my gosh, I gotta pay attention to this, and what do I wanna do with my one and only life?" Somebody in the beginning phases of waking up, whatever path is bringing them there, what advice would you give them?
Trust yourself, and you have everything you need within. It's hard. It's not easy to trust yourself. You wanna listen to everybody else, and "What do you think I should do? What do you think about this? Oh, you think I should try to heal myself? Oh, you think I should try to go to this specialist and blah, blah." I'm not saying don't listen to advice, but you have a voice in there, and you know the way. That's the one you need to listen to.
Those are my favorite healing modalities as well, the ones that teach you how to listen to yourself.
Yeah.
That's where meditation is a gift, or as a therapist, I loved EMDR, IFS, modalities like that that actually cause the therapist to be more like a midwife to help the person hear themselves. You know, it's what I love about boundaries work. The real boundaries work helps a person hear their own truth and follow that. And then we gather around to support, not to lead, but to support. I love that, what you said.
And seeing you in action doing that at the retreats. It is the most beautiful thing. Not easy. It is so beautiful. And the midwife is exactly a beautiful analogy.
I know it keeps us healers in our place. We healers have to know we're not the medicine in and of ourselves. We are a doorway to the medicine that everyone has inside of themselves. And
Yes.
that keeps ego out of the way, you know?
Yeah, I love that.
Makes it fun.
So cool.
It's so fun. It's so fun to be in this life with you, on this journey
Oh,
with you.
so
You
grateful.
know I want it to go on forever and ever, but it will go on for however long it's supposed to go on, and yeah, you are a bright light in this universe.
Mm,
I'm happy to call you my friend.
so grateful for you. So grateful.
All right, folks. We'll put any details or links in the show notes. Check there if there's a way to find and follow Jennifer. Actually, Jennifer, wait a minute. I can't believe I forgot this. How can people find and follow you on your journey?
Oh, talk to me about love on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. It's talk and then number 2, me about love.
Yeah, talk and then the number 2,
Yeah.
me about love. We'll have that in the show notes. It's important. Jennifer just gets on a lot of times and just talks. It's authentic. That's the best part about it. Straight magic.
I got a bunch of interviews ready to go up. I just gotta get the courage to do them.
Oh, this is exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, everybody. Well, happy 2026, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks so much, Jennifer.
Thanks, guys.
My compassionate friend, I am so glad you're with us. We are the compassionate revolution. We are the change the world needs, and we're becoming it. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or give this podcast a 5-star review. I'd appreciate it so much. And if you'd like to get practical and work with me more closely on boundaries, you can come visit me at boundaried.com. That's boundaried with a D.com for amazing resources. Because this is how we do it. One action at a time. We are moving into our power. And I'm so proud to be in this movement with you.